Hello, Shockers, and welcome to Student Government Association's virtual town hall. My name is Katrina Miller, and I'm your student body president. Today, I have the pleasure of hosting Dr. President Jay Golden, Provost Rick Muma, AVP Dean of Students Dr. Aaron Austin, and Manager of Instructional Design and Access Dr. Carolyn Spear. Thank you all for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can address all of our student concerns and questions as we all navigate our roles and responsibilities during this coronavirus pandemic. So for those of us who are tuning in with us, please feel free to comment any questions that you may have on our live stream. We do also have a few questions prepared that we've received from students prior to the live stream, so we can also answer some of those during this time as well. But before we go into some questions, President Golden, I know that you had some few words that you would like to share with everybody with us today.
Yes, thank you very much. So Katrina and I got together last week and thought it was a great idea for us to hold at least bi-weekly to start off with town halls. So we can really understand any issues or difficulties the students are having, and also provides a great opportunity for us to provide some updates as to what the university is doing. So first and foremost, I know from all of us, we hope that you and your families are healthy and are doing well. We also want to let you know we really understand and appreciate, because we're going through the exact same thing, how stressful these times are, and but try to remain as we are positive, because we are all going to get through this. It's just going to take a little time. I think our students and our faculty and staff have shown incredible patience and grace during this period of time. Faculty really worked hard, as well as staff, to scramble so we could pivot quickly so we can continue education. We all know and recognize online education is not the most ideal format, but we are still continuing, and that's the important part. And we continue to appreciate your patience as well as that of our faculty during this time. Candidly, we haven't really received any major issues with the online instruction to date. There have been some small issues that have popped up, more individual cases, and those have been addressed by the provost in his office. We continue to provide housing to those students who had no place to go through Dr. Austin and the group in student affairs. So those are all great things. I want the students to know that you can help by letting us know what your needs are and how this institution can serve you. We've done a lot of work, especially with the students, on personal protective equipment drives. We're going to start a food drive. So those that are still in the Wichita area, stay tuned. So how you can help distribute, bring food in so it can be distributed to families in need. During this, we made an announcement on refunds and also on commencement, and we're happy to talk about any of those issues that came up. We are working on plans for summer school and how that will be delivered. And right now, our plans are to have fall semester start on time. But again, these are things that are outside of our control, but that's how we're planning. But we are trying to make sure that if there are any interruptions or delayed starts, that we're prepared for those and to try to make it as seamless as possible for you, the students. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Katrina, and we're here to answer your questions for the next 15 minutes or so.
Perfect. Thank you, President Golden. So with that, we'll just go ahead and hop into some of the questions that we have. One of the big things that students seem to be really interested about are the grading system and any refunds that students might be getting. So first, let's hop into the grading scale. Many students have questions about if we'll be moving to a pass-fail system, as you know, multiple universities have been doing so. Are there any conversations happening right now with that? Are there any apprehensions? Is this something that we're truly looking into? Where are we at with moving towards a pass-fail grading system?
So I'm assuming you want me to answer that, Katrina. So, hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? I'm Rick Muma, the provost. So, yeah, this is a question that I've received a lot of conversation about and spent a lot of time discussing. Katrina and I actually had a conversation on Friday about this. So we don't have a pass-fail option that the faculty use currently at the university. But what we are looking at is to have a plan, and again, this has to be approved by the faculty first, where the faculty will continue to grade as they normally do. And at the end of the semester, there'll be a process by where students can go in and if they choose to receive credit or no credit for whatever course that they're interested in receiving that change in. Again, we're still working out the details. One of the things that we want to bring to your attention is that the courses that you're currently enrolled in, all of them count towards a degree program. And when we switch to a pass-fail, if we were able to do that here, which we're not, or a credit, no credit, which we do have the option, and it's essentially the same thing. We need to make sure that everybody understands when you switch over to a credit or no credit option, that may or may not count towards your degree program. So just need to be very cognizant of that. I've been meeting with the Faculty Senate President about this, and he's been meeting with his colleagues on the Faculty Senate, and hopefully we'll be able to come to some sort of agreement on how we want to move forward with that, that will be fair to all students.
And Rick, I think you're also trying to evaluate whether or not the timing. So a student wouldn't necessarily, if the policy was instituted on Monday, theoretically, wouldn't have to decide on Monday. They would have time during the semester to make that decision.
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, what we will probably have in place is a process where you can go in and make that decision at the end of the semester after you have completed all the requirements for the course, because there'll be many of you who want to get an A or a B or a C or whatever and not get a no credit or a credit option, because there may be ramifications for you later on. As someone who went through a graduate program at the University of Texas in Houston many years ago, it was a pass-fail grading scale for my entire degree. And when I transferred to another institution, it was very difficult to make sure people understood what that pass meant in my degree program. So we're trying to bring all those issues forward, making sure that we're making a good decision for the benefit of all the students.
Wonderful, thank you. So follow-up question about that a little bit. If this is a grading system that the Kansas Board of Regents decide that they would like to see our universities do, is that something WSU will look furthermore into, whether if it's not mandated by the Kansas Board of Regents, but they would like to see that? What does that mean for us?
Well, they're actually leaving those decisions to each campus to make the decision based on some of their processes that each university has. Everybody has different policies, different grading scales, and so they've asked the question, what are you all doing? But they don't have any policy that guides any decision making at their level. So there won't be a one-size-fits-all kind of a decision made across the Kansas system.
That's fair. I think that that's something to keep in mind for all sorts of different decisions, that there is no one-size-fits-all for this type of situation we're currently in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about refunds a little bit then. You know, President Golden, you released a video yesterday talking about refunds a little bit. So if you just want to touch on that, about what WSU will be refunding and what we're not, and what those fees that we are not refunding, why aren't we refunding those?
Sure, I'll start and then I'll turn it over to Dr. Austin and to the provost in regard to the education and the other student fees. So we made a decision fairly early for the system that we are going to refund the room and board as well as parking for students. And that process has already started. There are other fees, both from student fees and educational fees, tuition, and I'll let both Aaron and the provost go ahead and answer those.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, okay. First, I want to say hi to everybody. My name is Aaron Austin. I have the pleasure of serving as Dean of Students here at Wichita State, and I hope you all are safe and healthy. You know, when it comes to student fees, the thing to remember is that those programs continue to serve students. And so student fees, one great example is counseling and prevention services. A lot of their funding comes through student fees, and they're still meeting with students. They're still available to students. They're still putting on, those of you who are on, follow them on social media, they're putting out programming to help students. Some of that funding goes towards student involvement. They just hosted an event the other day. They've got a whole series of events that we're going to continue to put out to folks. Student government, SGA, had their meeting last night, so that group is still functioning. And SGA has already provided a number of dollars to various organizations and individuals for different clubs to travel, different students who presented papers at different conferences. So that's where those dollars go. And so a lot of it seems like, well, I should get it back, but it is still, your dollars are still being in use, and those dollars are still being used to help you. And while you may not necessarily think that, well, I'm not using that, but your friend in class is, or somebody that you may not know is still utilizing those services. And that's the reason why we made the decision that those student fees are not something that we could be able to effectively refund the folks. So as it goes to tuition, then I will go ahead and let Dr. Muma go ahead and talk about the tuition part.
Yeah, so some of the other fees that we're not going to be refunding is obviously tuition, because classes are continuing to go on, even though in a different format. There's still costs. We still have faculty who are being paid to do that. And that includes also course and program fees that support specific programs and courses. And even though it's in a different format, there's still costs that goes into that. Online fees obviously are not going to be refunded, because all the courses have been moved to an online and a remote format. And so in order to support higher usage of Blackboard, Panopto, Zoom, and various other technologies, we need to maintain those fees. And then the campus infrastructure fee, which primarily supports the one-stop, which gives you 24/7 access to a live individual who can answer any questions related to your registration, your admissions, financial aid, your student account, and so forth. And that also includes in that fee an IT fee. And obviously there's a lot more IT needs now, given the fact that we're totally in a remote situation. So those are the fees that we will not be refunding any students for.
And Katrina, that's consistent within the system. I would say I think we're the only institution that's actually providing a refund for parking in addition. So anyhow.
Perfect. Well, thank you. One part of the whole refund question that I have right here is, why are refunds being issued? Why are refunds being issued off a March 16th for parking, but March 22nd for housing and meals? Sorry, this question does not make a whole lot of sense as I'm reading it out.
So I believe the March 6th,
Please.
I'm sorry, I believe the March 16th date was selected because that's the date where we actually suspended classes, and so students wouldn't be driving to campus. And the March 22nd date, we had a lot of students in flux between that time, so there was students still living in housing. So that's sort of the compromise that we came up with those two different dates that we made to make decisions on refunds.
Yeah, it took quite a while under Dr. Austin's leadership to, we had students living in all three residence halls, and to really have communication, and for the students themselves, to their own benefit, trying to figure out where or what they can do. And we just didn't want to kick people out by any means. We wanted to make sure we were protecting the students during that period of time.
Definitely.
That's it.
So talking about refunds now, will students be charged for any online / technology fees due to the change of traditional course fees and formats? Since we moved from in-person classes to online, does that mean that we'll have to pay any additional fees?
So no, there won't be any additional fees from what students have already been assessed in the different course method that they've been enrolled in. So if they were enrolled in the traditional face-to-face course, and now it's in online, you're still going to pay the traditional face-to-face. If you're enrolled in the online course, you're going to pay an online fee. So there won't be any additional costs.
Okay, perfect. So moving into a different subject now, we have a question. So what if a student were to develop the coronavirus and are unable to finish their coursework? Is there a process for finishing coursework at a later date?
So I think any student, I know any student who become ill for any reason, not just coronavirus, would have the ability to ask for an incomplete and finish that course at a later time.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, that's a pretty standard no-brainer decision. If a student is ill, we're not going to prevent them from not getting an incomplete.
Yeah.
Dr. Austin, were you going to mention something else?
Well, no, I was just going to say that we have done that previously for students. We've had students who've had injuries where they've been unable to attend courses. So my guess would be that we would treat a student who is dealing with COVID-19 in a very similar way, where we work with the professor, establish kind of where they are in the class, and then, as Dr. Miba said, to arrange an incomplete, or depending on the circumstances, whatever it may be, we can work with that student. That is not out of the norm. That's my point. It's not out of the norm for us to do something like that.
And Aaron, if I could just ask on behalf of the students, what would be the process? So if a student became ill or had that similar type of emergency, what do you suggest or recommend to them who to reach out at the university to help facilitate so they don't have to struggle in those communications?
Yeah, great. I would say the first thing is to let us know. Our care team does a lot of work with that. You can reach anybody in student affairs. You can email me directly. My email, Aaron, AARON, .AUSTIN at wichita.edu, kind of explain what's going on. And then we will do all the work following up with you, seeing what you need, making sure you're taken care of, and then helping to coordinate with your instructors as well. What I would say, what I encourage folks is the moment, something happens is to let us know. So if you know that you're going to be missing classes as a result of COVID-19 or whatever the case may be because of an ongoing illness or something that keeps you from attending courses, let us know as soon as possible so that then we can start to help you in the process and not wait till the end of the semester where it's much harder to kind of get all those things going. Let us go ahead and start working with you right away, because it may be something where you feel like you can do your courses and maybe we can arrange a separate schedule or some sort of working with your professor, but just let us know. And again, if there's nobody else you can think of in student affairs, you can just reach out to me, Aaron.Austin, and I'm happy to help you in any way that I can.
I just add that we also have that process set up in each of the advising offices. They have the petitions for that, and we're obviously in the colleges with the faculty. They can also help with that as well.
Perfect.
Actually, Katrina, I'd like to add something on that as well, if I could.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Spear. I'm the manager of instructional design and access. We support faculty in this remote transition. And one of the upsides to the fact that everything has been moving online in remote instruction is that it will facilitate an ease with students who have to receive incompletes for a variety of reasons, because that content is already going to be, in a lot of cases, available in a way that's just really easy for them to access at a later date. So that is one upside to all of the struggles that we're going through right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So what about students, now that we've almost finished up an entire week of online courses, what about the students who aren't liking the way that their courses are turning out and they're having difficulties learning online? Are there any options for them to, drop out of those courses and get refunds? What does that look like for students?
So we're not offering refunds for students, but one of the things that we have done is we've extended the drop date by 2 weeks to give students an opportunity to see how the online course is going. And if they don't feel like that's a fit for them, they can withdraw from the class, but we're not offering refunds for them unless there are, obviously a medical issue that they can't complete it or something along those lines. So what I would suggest students do, though, before they withdraw from the course is to meet with their faculty member, make sure that they're getting all the help that they can get from that faculty member or their advisor. I'd hate for students to just make a decision hastily and drop out and delay their graduation when there's a few things that we could have done to help them. Just to remind everybody, just like Student Affairs has all of their student activities and student connection activities going on to help support students, we have a whole host of resources that are available remotely, from tutoring to supplemental instruction. Our student success coaches are standing by to help students at any time. So just encourage students to think about this before they make a decision on withdrawing. I know that this isn't what they're expecting in their classes, but there's some things that we can do to help facilitate their learning before they actually make a decision. So before I'd like everybody to promise me something. Before you make a decision to withdraw, that you talk to someone here at the institution about that and see if that's the right decision for you.
Thank you, Rick. So since we kind of talked about some of the resources that WSU is offering for students, what are just some of the resources that we are still offering? Like, I know the fact that, student health and counseling prevention services are still open. So those two, how are they operating? What does that look like for students? And what about financial needs of students? What are some of the resources that WSU is offering for them? And then Dr. Carolyn Spear, what are some of the resources that faculty and students have with their online classes?
You want me
So
to start? Sorry.
I'll just go ahead and start in terms of what we're offering students, and others can chime in. We just started an emergency loan a grant program for students who need help for whatever they need help with, and while that funding is available, and we're actively reaching out to donors to provide as much resources as they can. We also will have conversations with students if they're on a payment plan to extend that a little bit longer if they can't pay their installments if they're on one of those plans. We're not assessing any late fees right now, so that's also helpful for students so they don't garner more debt through the process. And then the other thing I would just tell all students is to reach out to the Office of Financial Aid. You may have additional resources that may be available to you through financial aid. So those are some things that are easily accessible to all students, and I encourage everyone to do that.
As to the question about resources for instructors, that was the question, Katrina?
Yes.
Okay, so the Office of Instructional Design and Access is trying to coordinate all of the very many resources available to instructors and to a certain degree also for students. We have our own website, which is wichita.edu/IDA, but we have started a program that helps to walk instructors through the whole process of getting a class online, keeping things online, and troubleshooting once they are online. And that program can be found also, if you're interested, at wichita.edu/remote instructor. The companion pages for students are at remote students, so wichita.edu/remote student. So we're doing what we can to try to provide training resources, things that we anticipated that people would need ahead of time. And then as needs come up, if we get a ticket or a question or an email or a call with a question that we weren't prepared to support, we put together the support for it, get it online, and push it out as quickly as we possibly can for our instructors across a number of different platforms. So we're working to make sure that instructors have the training resources available to them. We've expanded the support offices of my office to a 7-day-a-week schedule, and we support throughout the evening as well through our email address, which is ida@wichita.edu. And that's primarily for helping instructors, anybody with an instructional role who has a question or a problem, and we try to get that answered immediately. Our thought is every question that we answer helps to keep people in school. And so we are taking that responsibility very seriously.
Katrina mentioned the student health services, our counseling and prevention services, which are both still meeting with folks. Student health services is also implemented in kind of a curbside service. So if somebody who gets their prescriptions from student health needs to get their prescriptions, they can go ahead and drive up. Call their number and they can bring the prescriptions to you. They can also read a TB test, and I'm sure they could answer any sort of immediate questions you might have there. Also, our Shocker Support Locker, sponsored through our Student Government Association and utilized for students and faculty and staff as well who may be experiencing food insecurity. They've gone to a curbside kind of click list program as well. So you just kind of, if you go to the main SGA website and look for the Shocker Support Locker or just search Shocker Support Locker, you can find that list there. You can make that listing, and then on the days that they're open, you can pull up and they bring the things right out to your car. I mentioned the variety of programs we're doing. I'll point to our Office of Diversity and Inclusion, who are going to be doing some basically kind of Zoom hangouts. Those of you who've utilized that office know that a big part of what happens in that office is kind of that informal connection and recognizing that in this time where we need to be distanced physically, to be able to have kind of that social time where we can come together just kind of in a hangout and talk to each other is going to be a great resource for folks. So ODI is doing that. Our campus recreation center, while you may not be able to go, they are presenting some of their Fit 45 programs online, and so you can follow along and do those things there. I'll point out that our esports teams based out of our campus rec are still active. So, and if you're interested in watching them, I think it's 6 o'clock on Fridays. You can look for them on Twitch and you can follow along and support Shockers in that way. While some of our other sports aren't able to continue, maybe that can be your new sport that you watch, Overwatch or League of Legends or whatever it may be. So there's still a variety of things going on that we're trying to utilize. While you're not on campus physically, we want to make sure that you don't lose that connection. That's what we're all about. That's the vision of student affairs, is connecting every student. And while we may be distant, we don't want to lose that connection. And we want to make sure that we're providing those opportunities for you. So just about all of our areas are still working almost the exact same way they were. They're just not being able to do that in the same physical way, but still offering those same services.
And Katrina, I'd like to add in one quick thing, which is these are difficult times. Right, and we know that many of you in Wichita or other areas are parents. They could be in the restaurant business or been in aerospace and are facing some financial issues at the moment. For our working students, similarly. So I want to echo what the provost said. We take this really seriously, and please reach out to our Office of Financial Aid. Things are moving quickly. The federal government, state governments are looking at some types of incentives that may be of benefit and value to our students and student families. And we're certainly going to make sure that we push that information out to you. But take advantage of us as a resource because we certainly know how difficult at times this can be. And we want to make sure that we're taking care of our students.
Perfect. Thank you. President Golden, you briefly mentioned the Office of Financial Aid. I know that they just recently announced their new scholarship for students who have been financially impacted because of COVID-19. Could you explain that a little bit? How, what type of students qualify for that? How much they're able to get? All the information that students need about that scholarship fund.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have the provost jump in there real quick and help me out on this one. But it really started with our foundation. I want to give a shout out to to Elizabeth King, and she leads our foundation, and they went ahead and made a video and have done other work and have been reaching out to the community, putting all the other type of donation requests aside during this period of time, and they're just focusing only on the students and trying to get some financial aid during this pandemic. And so they started the process. They've been raising funds from small donations to larger donations. and they're providing those funds through our Office of Financial Aid, who are receiving the request and working with the students on their request and applications. I don't want to overstate, they're not large dollar amounts that they can provide. I think the provost can probably help me out here with the exact dollar amount, but if they reach out to the Office of Financial Aid, they can help them and understand what's available.
Yeah, I believe, first of all, there's a form that is a simple form that they fill out, and it's linked to the financial aid office. And we also have a FAQ on our wichita.edu/COVID-19 website. But I believe the maximum a student could be able to get in terms of the scholarship is $500. But again, that's can go a long way in some of the situations that we're hearing about in terms of food. And hopefully we'll be able to stretch this out as much as possible. Again, there's lots of donations coming in, and even many of the members of the executive team have contributed to this because we understand the need out there is great.
Yeah, and again, it's part of a system, right? So this is one part, the grant. That's why we wanted to make sure we were as quick as we could be in regarding the refunds for room and board and parking to get that out to the students as well. But the other part is making sure you reach out to the Office of Financial Aid, because there may be other mechanisms or other things available to you. So we're trying to look at it as holistically as possible.
Thank you. And I do want to share that last night during our Senate meeting, the Senate did approve $10,000 to go towards that fund for students. So hopefully that really helps many more shockers during this crazy time. So I am extremely proud of my Senate for passing that, and once again, I really do hope that it helps so many shockers.
That's wonderful. Thank you. That's
and one of the things to Katrina too, Jay mentioned this about the financial aid office. If a student still has federal work study eligibility left, they still will have access to some of those funds too. So that's all the more reason to contact the Office of Financial Aid to see what you might be eligible for.
Perfect. Thank you. So still talking about what services and resources are being provided to students. In particular, how is the university supporting students with disabilities in this time of online classes?
Yeah, the Office of Disability Services is still functioning. They've been reaching out to students that are registered with their services. They've reached out to professors who they know have students. So the professors of students that utilize ODS Disability Services, their office. So they've been in contact. They've reached out via email, and they've made some personal contacts as well with the students to make sure that they do have the resources that they need. I know that our testing services, our testing office has also been coordinating with ODS Disability Services to make certain that students, when they need to have testing, if they don't have the appropriate software, that testing services can be able to help be the mediator in that, whether that's through some level of video proctoring. There's different things, and I don't want to speak out of turn and say something that may not be exactly accurate. But what I can state is that those offices are continuing to work with our students, continuing to work with professors. And if there are questions or concerns, you can reach out to the Disability Services Office, and they can be able to answer you or help you with any questions or concerns that you might have.
Perfect, thank you. So one of the questions that we have gotten during our live stream is, who should students talk to if they receive no response or assistance from their individual instructors?
So good question, and I hate that there's even students at this point who aren't getting any contact from instructors. So if they don't hear anything, then they should contact the department chair, and I think at the same time the dean of that college that they're in. The deans have been making sure that they're sending out regular communications to their faculty to make sure they're connected. So those two individuals, the chair and the dean, would be my next step. And if you still don't hear anything, I can't imagine that would happen, then you need to contact my office, and you can email me at provost@wichita.edu.
Yeah, and it's important I want people to understand that every morning this group and a larger group with me gets together and goes over where we at, and it's very much focused on what are we doing for our students as well as faculty and staff, and what are issues or what are we hearing. And the provost does something very similar with all the deans. And so we're very, very focused every day on these issues. So, have them please reach out to the department chair and dean.
One thing I do want to mention about that too is I know I personally have had some difficulties during this time of transitioning to online classes. It is so difficult, going from in person, being a full-time student to now you're a full-time student taking online classes, and it's frustrating when you don't hear from your professor. But at the same time, I just want to remind everybody that also they're struggling with this too. Many of our professors have never taught online before and don't understand necessarily all the ins and outs of Blackboard. So just, keeping some grace with our professors as well. And hopefully they are doing the same with us, because we're two parties very frustrated in this situation, just trying to do our best. So just having some grace with one another during this time is so important too. So.
It is. And also both the students as well as the faculty not only have to deal with the stress of doing this online, but they have to deal with the stress of maybe their partner's out of work right now, or they're worried about a relative who might be ill, or just having children at home. Both are, so there's a lot of stress out there right now. So I applaud and support the whole idea. Let's have some grace and take a deep breath and know that we're all trying to work through this together.
But don't wait too long. If you're not hearing from them, you need to let someone know. And again, I'm trusting that you are going, before you make any drastic decision that may negatively impact your education, you're going to talk to someone before you do that.
So moving to still talking about classes as a whole, but the technology side of classes. So for students who don't have Wi-Fi or have really spotty Wi-Fi, how are they supposed to do their classes? And for those who don't have reliable laptops or ways to complete their classes, what is the best option for them? Dr. Spear, I don't know if you want to talk about this first.
Sure. I mentioned earlier that we have the remote student website and resources. You can also go directly to the page that addresses questions about specific resources, need for potentially for Chromebooks, for Wi-Fi hotspots, that kind of thing. You can go directly there with another short URL. It is wichita.edu class tech. So it's /class, TECH, class tech. And it'll go through what you're going to need. If you don't have it, where you can get it. At the same time, we recognize that it can come down in any particular class to some small resource that might not be something that we're anticipating all of our students requiring, but you need in a particular class. And if that's the case, then you need to talk to your instructor about it right away, and ask them if they don't have a way to think through that problem. Ask them to reach out to Instructional Design and Access, and we'll work with them to try to come up with creative solutions to keep you as the student able to participate fully in your class with regard to tech. You specifically mentioned the question of Wi-Fi, and I want to address connectivity as a separate issue. Wi-Fi in your own home is not necessarily as stable as the Wi-Fi that you had when you were on campus. So it's important if you're using Wi-Fi, especially for connection for classroom purposes, to shut off your connection to other ways that you're getting onto the internet and focus just on the one connection to class at one time. Also, the way that the architecture of a network in a neighborhood is just created, it's designed to have you download and stream a lot of media, but it is not necessarily designed to have you back upload media. And so sometimes you're asked to upload things like papers or videos or other kinds of coursework into Blackboard, YouTube, Panopto, other kinds of services. If that's the case and you're having issues, it's helpful to, if you can use a cable, to cable into your network rather than using Wi-Fi, that's ideal, or to use your neighborhood network at off-peak times. So that would be very late at night or really early in the morning, because that will just fewer of your neighbors are trying to go to work and school and other things on your network at that time, and that should help. But the whole world went home for work, for school, for entertainment, for their whole life, and we're all trying to use the same network. And that is causing some challenges. So just be aware of that. It is not you. It doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to do this. It just means that we're going to have to try to be creative in the ways that we address these issues.
And one thing to be aware of is if you go to the wichita.edu homepage, you can click on and we'll get you to our facts for COVID-19. And I'll go back and make sure that class tech and remote students, et cetera, are listed in the facts. But it is a good repository and directory of services that are available and frequent questions that many of us have.
Perfect.
Yep.
Provost Muba, do you want to talk a little bit about the Chromebooks that we have been offering for students?
Yeah, so we have ordered or received actually around 200 Chromebooks for students who don't have a device that they need to access their coursework. All of those Chromebooks have been dispersed to the colleges based on student need and demand in those colleges. And so if you still need a device, you need to contact your dean's office or email your dean or even your department chair to let them know. But the disbursement of those Chromebooks are being coordinated out of each of the dean's offices. So whatever dean for your respective major, that's where you need to go to get a Chromebook. And I just want to add, if you have gone away from Wichita, gone back to Dallas or Kansas City and can't get back down here, we'll mail that Chromebook to you.
Perfect. Thank you. I didn't know that, so that's awesome. So, assuming that our students who were planning to graduate in May are able to, meet all the necessary requirements to graduate, what is commencement looking like during this time? I know President Golden, you mentioned this yesterday during your video, so if you would just want to highlight that again, please, about commencement.
Sure. So the provost is taking the lead we will do a virtual commencement in May that will follow along what the traditional commencements have been, and allow the provost to kind of talk about that. I and the leadership team are adamant that we are going to celebrate this unique class. They deserve, our seniors as well as our graduates deserve nothing but the best. And so in October, we're going to hold a special commencement just for this class. And that will be held at Koch Arena. The date will be forthcoming probably in next week. I understand and appreciate that some may not be able to make that in October. So we're also going to allow all the graduates to be able to participate in the normal December commencement. And part of the reason for pushing it back, even, things are just so uncertain at this time. And many of the universities have already announced that we were fairly early, that we weren't going to be able to do an in-person commencement in May. And part of it is, just trying to get the people back on campus. Our students are now dispersed around the country. Some are going to be facing financial hardships. We don't know about hotels and all the things that go into a commencement. It would be very unfair to say that we are going to try to do it in May and then having to cancel at the last moment. So we will do a virtual. You'll be able to celebrate that in May, and then you're going to have one heck of a commencement in October on campus with all of us in celebration.
Thank you. That sounds so exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Provost Muba, did you want to add anything else about that?
No, I think that's the main thing. I just mentioned the virtual commencement. We're getting ready to actually start working on that. And what that'll be is a website that we develop. We already have a piece of software that we use called Marching Orders that displays the student's name and their degree and their honors on the Jumbotron and at Koch Arena when someone walks across stage. So we're going to do that as well. But Dr. Golden, myself, and each dean will have their speeches prepared as well. And so a student will go to that page, click on Jay's picture and his regalia, and they'll hear what he would like to say to you all. And then I'll make remarks, and each dean will do that, and that'll be there forever. And if you click on each college where your dean's remarks are, you'll be able to go to find your name, and that'll be displayed for you there. And then you'll be able to also upload pictures about how you're celebrating that, and a few words of wisdom that you might want to impart to your classmates and to faculty and to all of us. And then we're going to send each of the students a little gift, a scroll that you would get when you walk across stage, commemorating this special event and how you can get your diploma and that sort of thing. So I think it's going to be kind of a cool thing to have, and then that'll be there in perpetuity, as I guess as long as the internet's there, and you'll be able to go back and forth to see that. Yeah.
It takes away my commencement ceremony again. I'm really gonna cry.
But we all should be cognizant of the fact that commencement ceremonies, especially in October, could be slightly different than what they have been in the past in regards to shaking hands and those type of things. But those are minor issues. The big part is we are going to celebrate, and we're going to recognize the great work that you've done. And you guys will all recognize those parents that have helped you along the way, the family members.
Thank you. So we are.
Real quick, I'm sorry, real quick. I just want to add that the Office of Diversity and Inclusion has also been looking on how we can continue some of our traditions in that office, celebrating our lavender graduation for our students who identify as members of the LGBTQIA community, as well as our multicultural graduation for our students of color who have graduated as well. So I just want to throw that in for those folks who may be concerned about missing those ceremonies, that we're looking for ways to make sure those students get that experience as well. So I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Thank you. That's really good information to have as well. So we are starting to wrap things up. So I'm going to ask 2 more questions. So the first being, what does the rest of this, semester and going into the summer and even fall, what does the timeline look like? What are the plans for summer classes? Are there any plans for the fall classes? What does this look like?
So I'll start, then I'll turn it over to the provost. So we've already made that determination that the rest of this semester is going to continue as is online. Summer, we're making the determination fairly quickly. I believe one of our sister institutions already or will today make the announcement that summer school is going to be online, which many universities across the country have. And it's looking very much like we are going to be online during the summer. I would say that the majority of our courses historically for summer school have been online anyhow. So we're somewhat used to that. We are all hopeful, and we are preparing for a normal fall startup of the semester. That is yet to be determined, but that's how we're planning for that. But we are also planning for other options in case that has to be delayed and what those ripple effects may be. We're also planning for starting the semester as normal for the fall semester and potentially having some type of which we hope we don't have, but if we had to stop in person during part of that. Again, we hope we don't have to, but we're trying to plan for all potential options so it has the least amount of disruption for our students.
Perfect. Anybody else want to add anything about that topic?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. But on the back end side of things, we've actually been having meetings about this, and the president kind of alluded to this. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where we might have to do something like this in the middle of the semester again, and so we're just letting in summer and fall registration starts on Monday. And so we're coding those courses to make sure people understand if it's a true online course, it'll be offered in online. And the president already said that the majority of our classes are online, but not all classes will be in that format. but we want students to understand that there may be a decision that has to be made to move those in that format. So we're putting that coding, so when you start registration on Monday, you'll be able to see that. And then hopefully within the next few days, we'll be able to make a final decision on what we're actually going to recommend all of our instructors do, because it's only about a month away. So we have a pre-session that starts in the middle of May for 2 weeks, and then summer school starts the first week of June. That's not that far away.
Perfect. Thank you. So to wrap up, our final question. So it's a two-part kind of question. So what are some ways that our shockers can help, whether it's students, faculty, staff? How can we support one another during this time? And then also, what advice do you have for students who are really struggling during this time, during practicing social distancing? What is the advice you have for them?
Well, I'll let Rick start. Go ahead, Rick.
No, I'm just saying that we just need to stay healthy and stay as active as possible. Get up every morning and go on a walk. We can still do that. We don't have to stay in our houses 24/7. Just as long as we're practicing social distancing, and do as many things that you normally try to do. Make sure you continue to do that, because I'll just tell you, I have to do something, or my weight's going to get out of control, because just right behind me in this little cabinet, it's really easy to get snacks. But this also just helps. This helps so much in terms of your how you're thinking through things. But you've got to get out and connect somehow with people. Either that's through this process, or waving at the neighbor across the street, or talking to the neighbor several feet away. Keep connected, and I think that'll help with your thinking process and just trying to keep things in perspective.
Yeah, I'll just share a personal side. So Rick is very fortunate. He has a wonderful husband with him, and I'm isolated like many of you. My family is, my wife and youngest daughter are in North Carolina because she had to get out of Europe from study abroad. So I'm literally here in the apartment by myself. So I'm following Rick's advice. I go for walks twice a day to make sure I get my 10,000 steps in, but I get to see people, and I get to wave, and I get to see the world is still operating and people still have smiles. I FaceTime with my family, including my mother, every day. I think I've talked to my family more frequently than I have in a long time, and that's really good. And I'm trying to take advantage of some of this time. So I'm starting to do flute lessons and trying to learn Spanish online. You just, take advantage of it. Know that we're going to get through it. And I think the biggest thing for me is stay positive. We will get through this. It's uncomfortable right now, but we will persevere, and it'll be, we're going to come out stronger because of it.
Okay, thank you.
I have a way that students can help us. We certainly have, we want to hear what is not working, definitely. But we also want to hear what is working. So as we prepare, as offices like mine and the library and lots of other offices prepare our faculty to be flexible in the delivery of their classes going forward, everything you can tell us that works is something that we can then try to iterate across a bunch of different classes to help students in a lot of different programs. So please reach out, tell your instructors. If you'd like to send an email to my office at ida@wichita.edu and tell us what's working. Certainly we want to hear what's not working also. But if you can do that for us, that'll really help as we try to make sure that summer classes, fall classes have the kind of flexibility and the options that are useful to you personally.
Thank you. Dr. Austin?
Yeah, I don't have the benefit of being looking like a supermodel like Provost Muma, so
whatever.
That snack thing is
Yeah. Look at Jay. What about Jay?
Right, and the rest of the panel. Forgive me. Excuse me. Yes. So that snack challenge is real for some of us real eaters. One one of the things that I heard that I think makes a lot of sense is every now and then we've got to unplug from all this. The fact that, it's constantly on the news, we're constantly worried about it. When we find the opportunities, we need to find those opportunities to kind of step away, because that is constant and it's always there. Again, reach out for the resources that we have available on campus, in your communities. Reach out to each other. Try to have some fun. I know that sounds crazy in this time, but whether that's, working on your TikTok video, your dances, or whatever it is, make those things and have fun. Find ways to engage with each other in this time of, this physical distance. But it's really important as much as possible to not be socially distant. Even though we use that term, social distance, think of it much more as being distant from social settings than being distant from social engagement with other people, because that's what's really going to help us through. Look for those opportunities to connect in the variety of ways that we have available. If you need help, nothing to be ashamed of. Ask for help. There are people on this campus or kind of spread away from the campus, but there are people who work here who want to help you, and that's their job. And that doesn't stop just because you're not physically close to us. So need the help, look for the help.
Yeah, and share with us on Twitter or other formats of the fun things you're doing, and we'll push it out. And if you happen to see Dr. Austin doing some dancing, make sure you videotape that and post that, and we will make sure that's
not going to happen, but
actually there is some video of Dr. Austin dancing in the past, and he's a he's a good dancer. He really is.
Yeah, no, I don't know what we're talking about.
I'll just add, so everybody's sort of said this, but just one thing I'll say is that if you're struggling, promise all of us here today that you're going to reach out to someone before you make any decision that's going to negatively impact you. Please promise that you'll do that.
Yeah. So I think my piece of advice to my fellow students is, while it may physically feel like you are alone, you are not. And I know that everybody here has said that multiple times, but you are not alone. There are so many people around who are willing to help you and care about you. So please, 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 if you need any help, if you need to have a conversation, please reach out to Counseling and Prevention Services, reach out to your friend, or reach out to your instructor. Contact somebody. We're all here for you. And another thing is, make sure that you're practicing self-care. If you don't have a self-care routine, now is the perfect time to figure out what that routine looks like, whether it's, going on a walk or reading a book or, doing your face mask, like people love to do for self-care. Whatever it may be, do it, because now is the perfect time to take care of you. So thank you everybody for joining in today. So we are out of time now, and I would like to say thank you to everyone who submitted questions and tuned in today to our virtual town hall. I think it went pretty well. As the rest of the semester continues on, please do not hesitate to reach out to any one of us, any of our departments, if you have any other questions or concerns about what the university is doing and what you need to do as a student during this ever-changing time. I would also like to thank all of our panelists here today who joined us and helped address some of those questions and concerns. Without all of you, students would feel so lost, and so thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Katrina. You did a great job.
Thank you.
So once again, thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you all stay happy, safe, and healthy. And remember, it's always a great day to be a shocker.
And want to thank Colton Howard, who's been behind the scenes doing this and really has done a great job.
Hi, Colton. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.